So we finally got it set up after a little conundrum. All right, everybody. So this is David, and David, I don't know how to even pronounce your last name.
It's Gyger, like Gyger counter.
Gyger. We were talking about that on the drive down here, and it's Gyger, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So David Gyger, and he was a firefighter before.
Yes.
And now he's on the sheriff's department, right?
Yes.
Stone County Sheriff's Department. And actually, we met David out at Silver Dollar City because you were running some kind of detail out there, right?
Yeah, we're working off-duty security out there.
Okay. So how does one kind of get into that gig? I know it's a stem of like the sheriff's department, right? Obviously.
Right. The sheriff's department, Silver Dollar City contacted us to do off-duty security. So when we're off-duty from the sheriff's department, they hire us to go out patrol parking lots, help them with any incidents that happen in the park.
Okay. And so how many at any given time is there that do something like that?
There's quite a few of us officers that do that, but there's only one assigned to each park, the Branson Bell and also Silver Dollar City.
Okay. So when that day you were probably the only guy, the only I guess police officer that would have been out there.
Now they have their own security. They have their own post-certified officers that also work for them, but they don't have the transport or the arrest capabilities on park to do that for them.
Sure. So give me like a little bit more like a background on. So you came from firefighting. Were you firefighting here or?
Yes. We moved here in the late 70s, kind of like the Beverly Hillbillies in reverse from Southern California, and always wanted to be a fireman. So I got into the local volunteer fire department just before I was 15, started ditching high school to get fire credits and going to Columbia to get training. And by 17, I was the assistant chief of one of the local fire departments around here.
Wow.
And I just kept going from there and got, when I graduated high school, I graduated the State Fire Academy, EMS. I got my EMT license in high school all in the same week. So it was pretty busy.
So yeah, no doubt. So how long did you end up, what's a career look like in that? I mean, did you go 20 years? Is there some kind of pension plan
There is a pension plan in it. I spent 40 years total fighting fire.
Wow.
Part of it was volunteer, and then the rest was full-time. They do have full-time careers. A lot of the local departments now have started hiring full-time firemen. They've come a long ways from just being a bunch of jump on the back of the fire truck, having a good time putting out fire guys, to full-time professionals now too.
Yeah. I have a little bit of knowledge in this. I got on the fire department in Marshfield. This has probably been 2013, 2014, somewhere in there. And it was before I took a busier role at my where I used to work, and that's kind of how it was there. It was like whoever would volunteer and could jump on the truck or put this big. I mean, really, it was almost like it got to the point where it was really like about response time. Whoever could get in their pants and get out the door and get onto a scene first had the job.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. And I met some really cool people doing that though. But it was like a lot of younger people that were maybe like looking for something to do, right? You know, still in high school or just out of high school, and it's kind of before they go to school. But it was a volunteer. But now I think they had like a pay program there where you got paid per call that you went on or something. Did you guys do something like that?
Yes, we did. We eventually finally started that. When I first started, it was ran by a lot of older gentlemen, people that had garages. My chief was a janitor at the school. So we finally got paid per call, made a whopping $5 per call and $3 for training nights. But spent a lot of time repairing a lot of the older trucks. Equipment has definitely come a long ways with all of our local departments down here.
Yeah.
It was a blast for me. It was a dream come true.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we had a lot. Like, I didn't do it very long because I took that job, but I remember the hiring on process was kind of I don't know if stressful is the word, but they really put you on point. Like at this department that I got on at, I walked into this room, the fire chief's there, and he's, yeah, come on into the board meeting and this and that, or boardroom. And there's a circle of like the guys that sit on their little firefighting board, and right out in the center of the room is a chair.
A hot seat.
It was wild, man. I've done a lot of stuff in life and been in a lot of interviews and done a lot of things for jobs, but never have I sat in a chair in the middle of the room of a circle of guys that basically just bombard you with questions. It was the weirdest thing. And I think that they do that to kind of put you on the spot and see how you handle it before they put you on the department. Long story short, I got the job, but yeah, it was crazy, man. And like kind of that whole department as a whole, there was a lot of little quirks and things that they did like that. And there was a lot of chain of command stuff. It was a cool setup, man. And being the whole firefighting thing, I don't know how every department is, but that one was pretty cool.
I grew up, like I said, in this area. So with Central Taney County over in the Forsyth area, I got to deal with Branson, Western Taney County a lot. Some of their chiefs in the past, they were the cutting guys in the area. I mean, they were the top dogs in Missouri Association of Firefighters and training. And so I got to start out young and learn a lot from these guys. And it was a very good job. Then I finally went full-time. I went to Nixa and went to work full-time there. And I left there and came back to be the fire chief of the city of Forsyth. And I love my Forsyth people, but I like to die there because we didn't have very much action.
Yeah.
So I left there and went to Southern Stone and finished out my career with them, and ended up being the fire chief. And just seemed like everywhere I go, I was an officer. It didn't take long to move up the ranks.
Yeah, I think, man, as a whole, it's like if you take a little initiative in life, there's so many people that just kind of put their head down and try to get through life. And like my last job, I had a guy that worked for me, and he had been working at the same company for 10 years when I got on there. And by the time I left, he'd been there almost 20 years, but he started in that position, and he's still there in that position to this day.
Well, it's responsibility bears a lot of weight. And the more you move up in the fire department, the more responsibility you have. You have, at one time at Southern Stone, I had over 100 volunteer firefighters under my command, and you're responsible for every one of those.
Yeah.
So you better be ready to take the consequences if something happened.
Yeah, there's definitely something to be said there, because in my last job, it was the same way. It's like a lot of people think, oh, yeah, you got it made because, I maybe had lenient hours or this, but the burden of responsibility for running a business and taking care of all the employees that you have under you is worse than just showing up at 8 a.m. and working until 5 p.m. And people don't understand that responsibility burden. And even though, you may be home at 3 o'clock, they don't realize like you have a responsibility until you fall asleep at night. And that's really what started taking a toll on me.
Yes. Gets very stressful.
It is, man. And it makes you want to get off the wheel, and
well, that's how I got in law enforcement too. With the being in the fire service, I was very interested in fire investigation. So I went and got my state certification as a state fire investigator. And the local police guys, most county officers or city officers don't deal with arson cases. And so I went and got my law background so I could dig into these cases for insurance fraud and thefts and stuff like that. And so I've had that now for almost 16 years. I've had my law enforcement, and it came in handy in the fire service. I
bet that's really a pretty impressive thing. We had a barn burned down a couple of years ago out at our house. And it was amazing when that fire investigator came out, what he could figure out and what he could. I mean, I had no idea. I had no idea what caused the fire or what it could possibly be. But I mean, he got to where he was coming in and looking over things in our barn, and he's like, "So you had one of these here, you had a fan here." He could see just in the rubble of where stuff was. Anyway, long story short, they ended up, I think they deemed it a electrical fire.
Electrical, yep.
But But man, he could find any little wire nut that had been used in that house at one point, or in that barn at one point.
If you're really serious about that job when you're a fire investigator, you can figure out a whole lot.
Yeah, it's
The
crazy.
biggest problem with convicting an arsonist is to actually, you can have an arson fire and never figure out who did it, because it's very hard to convict the person that done it.
Yeah,
But you have to
so you
stay
can
on
figure
your
out that it
game.
was started on purpose, but it's hard
Yeah.
to figure out who started it on purpose.
Yes, and it's very
I remember for me, the whole thing was really frustrating because we had just had this horrible loss. We had livestock in there, and we lost a lot of our stuff that we were building our house. And this guy, and I don't know where you can kind of tread with this, but this guy just treated us like we were criminals, like we had done something, like we were arsonists, you know. And I know, like I kind of get now, like looking back on it, like it's just his job. But I mean, man, we had carcasses of livestock. They made us just lay there for like 3, 4, probably going on a week.
I was going to say about a week.
Yeah.
And by the time they get in there and move everything and get everything around.
Yeah,
and-
it was nasty, man.
Yeah.
And I mean, the thing smoldered for a few days anyway. But ultimately, after they finally gave me the approval, I just had a bulldozer come out and basically just shove everything down into
Yeah.
a big ravine and then, you know, cover it. But I remember going through that whole process. It was just like they make you feel like you've done something wrong. And,
Right.
And actually, it's a funny story because the firefighter that showed up, we live in a small town, and we didn't even know our barn was burning down. I guess our neighbor called 911 because they heard an explosion. And we were building our house at this point, so we were living in a camper. And when you're in a camper and the air conditioners are on, that's all you hear.
Yeah.
It's like like a wind tunnel. And we get this knock on our door at like 3 a.m, and it's a sheriff's deputy. And I'm like, oh, what's going on? He's like, I think your barn's on fire. And I'm like, what? No. And I peek my head out, and there's just an orange orb, you know, down in the woods, which is where the barn was. And so we went running down there. Sure enough, the thing was pretty much fully engulfed. And the first thing that came to my mind was the animals in there. We had a cow in there and some goats and chickens and stuff like that. But the thing that brings me to the point is the fire department showed up, and it was one guy, and looked like he just rolled out of bed. You know, obviously he probably did it. It was 3 a.m. He didn't even try to fight the fire. He's like, it's pretty much it's total loss. So I'm like out there. I grabbed the garden hose, and I was able to stop the fire from spreading onto my other barn, which had all of our windows and stuff in it. But that's kind of a good example of those guys on the volunteer departments. They're desperate to get anybody
Yes.
just to show up.
And the thing is, too, you show up like that and the whole place is involved. The biggest thing I was always concerned was what we call exposures, like your other barn or cars or,
Yeah.
Spreading across the field and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because that first truck he showed up in, I don't know what it was, but he might only had 1,200 gallons of water, and it's definitely not going to put out a fully involved barn. That's
Yep.
for sure.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking too. But man, I just
It's disheartening to sit there and watch everything you worked for go up in
Yeah.
smoke.
then somebody literally show up, and within 5 minutes of getting there, it's total loss. They don't even
Yeah.
try, you know. So it's like, and then which after I think they were getting ready to leave, he's like, well, so we have a program. They start trying to collect money. And I'm like, no. Because I guess in our area, if you pay an annual fee or something
It was
like that,
dues.
yeah, pay your
Yeah.
dues. But they show up at the fire. We just lost our barn, and you're trying to collect
Trying to
dues
collect
from me.
money.
When you didn't even put the fire out, I put it out with my garden hose.
Right. Back in those days, it was dues. Everybody in the community, if you wanted fire protection, you paid dues. So
Yeah.
if your place was on fire and you didn't pay your dues, they didn't fight your fire.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
then
it's
they
wild.
went to a tax-based,
Yeah.
district-wide and stuff, and that helped the departments get more equipment. And
Now they're doing the double dip policy.
yes, they are. They do the tax. You pay taxes for fire protection, and then they charge your insurance too.
Yeah,
So-
it's wild, man.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that goes on though. It's funny that because we just talked about this in another podcast, like with tolls, like they double dip on that. You
Yep.
take tolls and you pay taxes. That's the same thing with the fire department. I never really made those connections before, but
Yep, they're doing it. I mean, it's It's so costly though, and the taxes don't cover. Well, when a basic fire truck costs you $300,000,
Yeah.
and that's with no equipment
Yeah.
and trying to hire people. I mean, it's a tough world out there.
I wonder what the tax that they get even in a small town is though. It's got to
Uh,
be pretty good.
I don't. It's been a while since I've been in there. I
Yeah.
remember when I first started with Central Taney County in the city of Forsyth. Um, man, we were lucky to have twelve to $20,000 for an annual
Wow.
budget, and that was trying to keep trucks going, and it was crazy.
Is that just overhead budget or is that like payroll budget too?
That was for the fireman's fund. That was to pay the firemen the $5 and the $3, gas, insurance,
What about to
equipment.
pay the fire chief?
So he was volunteer.
Yeah, man.
He did it for free, man.
Yeah.
He did it for free.
So when they got that boot out there on the corner, that's why.
Well, that goes for Jerry's kids.
Yeah.
That's we can raise a serious. We at Nixa, I mean, it was nothing to raise $22,000 to $30,000 in a day or two.
Well, I don't quite get. I mean, I don't quite get how they expect somebody to do that. How they expect you or me or anybody to go volunteer all of our time to do a full-time job.
Well, I know it costed my father a pretty penny every time I left work to go fight a fire, but I was local. I
Yeah.
was right down the street from the fire department, and my dad always said, "You better go, you better go." So he was used to it, but it costed him money.
Yeah, I don't know. You'd think the government would figure something out with that though, because it's just, I guess they find those people that are in those gifted circumstances where they have somebody that'll let them take away from work and go do that.
Yes, and it's harder and harder today to get volunteers. Older guys, us older guys in our 50s and 60s, if we don't want to go fight fire, we can volunteer though and drive a truck.
Yeah.
Let those young guys get in there and fight that fire, but let's get that apparatus out there. So
Yeah.
makes a big difference.
Yeah, I think the one that's the most memorable to me that I was ever on, we got called out, and this was in Marshfield, to an industrial building, like a big warehouse type building, and a steam pipe had burst, which at the time I didn't know a whole lot about any of that, but those are some of the most dangerous things you can be involved on, is like a steam pipe that had burst and something like that. But I just remember that being really, it was kind of a memorable moment because we had all these people that showed up, and when they heard it was an industrial thing, everybody showed up.
Yeah.
It's funny too. That kind of comes back to that being on call thing. The good calls, everybody shows up. But if you get a call that somebody fell down some stairs or something like that, nobody wants to go to that.
Yeah, nobody wants to go. Grandma tumped over, kind of call.
Yeah,
but,
life alert dinged, and but no, this was a bit like a big steam fire, and actually it wasn't a fire; it was just a steam pipe had burst, it set their whatever you call it, their heat detectors off.
Yeah,
and so that was pretty cool. I mean, even though there wasn't anything we really fought or anything, but we just basically wandered around this big warehouse building looking for any other steam pipe leaks.
The fire department always gets called out for everything.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's Fluffy stuck in a tree or a major town's on fire. They
And they're
always get
usually the
called
first
out
to
for
show.
everything. Yeah,
They're usually the first to show. They're dependable, man. But yeah, so if you were in a small town, so you probably don't have, I mean, there's probably not a whole lot. I mean, what's kind of probably your most memorable thing you ever went to? And I would say fire, but I know that it's not always a fire that's memorable.
I've been on some amazing calls.
Yeah.
Industrial fires. There at Nixa, we had a place called Springfield Specialty Products, Diversified Plastic. And when that thing lit up, I'm telling you, it lit up. It was a heck of a fight.
What, like a plastic factory or something?
Yeah, they made they used polystyrene, which are these little pellets, and they would make like dash products for Jeeps and Chryslers.
Oh boy!
And when that dryer caught on fire, drying all those deals, you couldn't even see your hand in front of your face.
Wow.
I mean, we were fighting fire in just pitch black. Right next to it was the vinegar plant, and they had a huge storage tank of raw alcohol get struck by lightning. And we had to get up on top of the building and use foam and try to get that out. Springfield brought us foam. Battlefield brought us foam. All these departments bought us all this foam to put this thing out. I've been in some pretty cool fires over the years.
Yeah, man, I can't imagine because just throwing a styrofoam cup on a fire, you can kind of see. I mean, you get a bright flame, good hot fire, and black smoke.
Black smoke.
Enemy number 2. Jeez, yeah. Yeah, that's, I think that most stuff, we were right out there on 44, where Marshfield is.
Yeah.
So most of the calls out there were accidents.
Car wrecks, yeah.
Yeah, and there's some pretty nasty ones
Well,
out there.
around here, I used to teach car extrication for the state of Missouri when I was younger. But around here, I would tell everybody you either hit a bluff or go over one because there's no shoulders on our roads down here. You know what it is like in Marshfield. There's none. So if you had a wreck, you either hit a bluff or went over one. And we've had a lot of really serious accidents down here over the last, 40 years I was fighting fire and doing it.
Yeah, and it's really scary for us because if we're driving the motorhome or like our big box truck build, you get on a soft shoulder and you're going right over.
It's going to suck you over, pull
I'm
you down.
scared all the time of just, you take your eye off the road for just a minute and you just go over to the side a little bit. If you hit that soft shoulder, it'll pull you right off the road.
Sure will.
So I've thought a lot about that. But so being in Stone County, so Missouri gets a bad rap at being like a meth capital of wherever, right?
Right.
And I know that getting down into like Cedar Creek, Forsyth, Rockaway Beach, you kind of get down in those areas. I think most of that's Taney County.
Yeah, that's all Taney County. We've got like Blue Eye along the state line. We've got a lot of areas up around Galena, Crane. We were well known, Stone and Taney both, for being part of the biggest meth capital of the world for a long time.
That's wild. So what does a call look like when you go out to something for?
Used to, we'd go to one of those houses, do a raid. There'd be chemicals everywhere, just trash. It was horrible for the officers because, once again, we're in a pretty poor area. We don't have all the great equipment that a lot of big cities do. So, now it's went to the wayside. It's easier to get the Mexican meth in and not produce it down here as much. So we're not finding the labs and stuff like we used to in this area.
Wild. Okay. What does a lab look like? Is it like usually like a dumpy little house and then in the basement, or could be in the kitchen? Or
when I was in Nixa on the fire department, right down the street from me, in a nice house, 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, 2-car garage, great neighborhood. They were cooking meth and they were using can't think of the name of it. It's red phosphorus, and they've even had a fire in there. They had kids in the house with their meth in the refrigerator, in the freezer. They had dirty vials and the lab equipment and all sitting in the kids' bathtub, same bathtub. I mean, it could be in your $300,000-$400,000 neighbor's house, or all the way down to a run-out trailer.
That's wild. See, I never imagined anything like that. But I guess once there's that much money, those people probably move up too.
Yeah.
But they made a movie about that. I think a lot of it was shot down in there. I think it was called Winter's Bone.
Winter's Bone, yeah.
Yeah.
I had some friends that were in that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, some local guys from
I knew they got local
Forsyth
people.
area and stuff that were in there.
Yeah, I think I had a great uncle or something that was in that maybe. But yeah, I mean, not that great. I think that was nominated for some awards. Not really sure why. We watched it, but
it was pretty true though.
Was it?
Yeah,
Was it?
had a lot of truth to it.
Yeah. See, I wouldn't know. I didn't get around that group very often.
Yeah, it's not like I hung out with them.
No, but I think you're kind of forced to be involved when you're on the sheriff's department around. So, So is that primarily like? Would you say that's kind of most of the crime rate in this area is drug? Or I guess it
drug
was.
related.
Yeah.
A lot of stealing, stuff like that happens because they have to, they don't get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and go to work like you and I.
Yeah.
I mean, they stay asleep all day long. They get out, they steal, go get their stuff and buy their dope and come back home. I mean, we have a lot of thefts and it's a shame.
Yeah, man, that whole world is just wild because it's so it's just not logical at all. Like we used to, I was doing security and surveillance for several years, almost 15 years, and being in Springfield is where we were primarily located. So going from North Springfield to South Springfield, it's like two completely different cities.
Night and day.
It is, man. And in North Springfield, we were pulling murders on camera surveillance. We would pull it for the police officers so they could and give them the footage. I'm sure you dealt with that. But so we would send our guys out to pull some footage, and man, they will kill each other over, a few bucks on a drug deal gone bad.
Yes, they sure will.
It's such a wild, scary world, and it to me it makes you think, like, if there was ever, if we ever, that whole defund the police thing really went wild there for a while, right?
Yes, it did, and I think they're finding out that's not working as well as they planned.
I just wonder, man, if things just keep getting as bad as they are, and they keep getting worse, and they go south. I mean, what does a defunded police department look like, or really just a defunded in general across government wide? And it's weird because you're kind of in this weird predicament on the right or in a conservative side, because people don't realize the difference between like big government and then just state government or local government. And somebody like me, I can be all for state and local government, local police departments, local this, but I'm against big government, big brother, like trying to get involved. And I think a lot of people don't really look at the differences in those.
They don't. They lump it all together.
Yeah.
Fortunately for the Stone County Sheriff's Department and even Taney County, we have a lot of backing of our citizens. Our citizens are great. They thank us all the time. They appreciate what we do. They know we're not the most richest counties around. So the guys that are working in this area, we don't make big top dollars like a lot of them do. And we do it because we like what we do and we love our people that we serve. And we've got a lot of backing down here. Big Brother, there for a while, says, hey, we're going to take everybody's gun. And I don't think there was a sheriff in the state of Missouri that didn't say, hey, we're not going to do that for you.
Yeah.
We're here to uphold the laws for our communities and our people. And the Second Amendment stands for us. And if you're going to do that, you're going to have a fight on your hand.
That's such a big deal, man.
And it is a big deal.
And that's why I think that in Missouri, and I don't speak for all of Missouri, but I think I speak for Southern Missouri, they've always been kind of pro-tradition, pro-gun. Like, they pretty much vote that way. The sheriffs are pretty much that way. And that's kind of what we're accustomed to. But those people that think and talk that way, there's a reason that they get reelected.
Right. And moving from Southern California when I was a kid out here, I was in shock because in Southern California, I loved to hunt and fish. My father and uncle had land in Bakersfield. We would go hunt and fish. Well, when I moved out here, I could take the shotgun at 12 years old, throw it over my shoulder, walk down the local bottoms and hunt. You couldn't do that in the L.A. area. You throw a shotgun over your shoulder and every cop in the country was on you.
That's so wild. Yeah, man,
big difference.
I cannot relate to people in L.A. at all. It's so tough just because, I mean, their lifestyle is so much different than ours.
So much different, yeah.
And it's crazy because there's countries that you could go to where you have more in common.
Yeah,
for sure,
exactly.
And so it's and I'm not saying that those people can do the things that they want. I think it's obviously speaking in volumes of people that are leaving LA, but in California in a whole. And that's another one of those places too where it's like, Southern California is so much different than Northern California.
Big difference.
But Northern California doesn't have the big cities like Southern California has.
That's right.
So you've got, it's kind of like with Chicago. Like Brandy's dad lived in Illinois for quite a while, and we would go out there, and it's like it's all farm communities and all these things. But the laws are like city laws, and you're out in like a farm community.
Out in the middle of Nowhereville.
Yeah, and that's because Chicago's population runs that state.
Yeah.
And it's just a crazy thing. And to me, that's another reason, like, you got to kind of get things back to small-time government.
That's like the people moving from California out here.
Yeah.
As soon as they get there, they're like, man, I just bought all this property. I sold a little house out there for $1 million. Now I built this $500,000 home and I own all this land. but my neighbor's living in a trailer or a ran down house. I want the county to clean it up. I'm sorry, it ain't
Yeah.
going to happen.
Yeah, I think one of the first things everybody that I know says when somebody from California moves in is, don't vote like that here.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
like the first thing you tell them.
Yeah,
Because and that's true because man, we're all for it. Come on, come hang out with us. Life's better over here. It really is. But it's almost like at some point, what happens if all this population's moving out of California? And what's there left to vote? I mean, who fixes the problems that are there now?
right.
Is it just turned into like it's Detroit? It's like a ghost town.
Ghost
right?
town.
Man,
That's right.
It's crazy. So it's like they trash it and then they pack up and they leave and then they trash the next place. And
Yeah. Well, hopefully, we'll keep living our country lives out here and, good neighbors. Like I said, moving out here, it was amazing to meet all the people. And I mean, we didn't lock our cars or our house for, years and years and years. You didn't have to worry about it,
yeah,
and now it's changing. Times are changing, but it's still a lot better than living under all the rules and regulations like they have. So.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I mean, and kind of the thing for us too is we always live in the country. I couldn't live in city limits anyway. And I'm sure that it's probably similar across the board when you're in the country and you can be out on your own. But, that was something for me. I never wanted to give up not having to lock having to lock your car doors. And, we always lock our house door just as a safety measure. But I'd say 90% of the time my cars aren't locked. Now, we lived in Lubbock, Texas at one point because Brandy was going to school out there, going to college. And we were in the process of moving back to Missouri. And I think we literally were out packing. We had my truck. I had a little truck, and it was backed into my yard, my front yard, with a trailer hooked up to it. Went inside to eat some dinner. I was maybe inside for 7 to 10 minutes. Came back out. Somebody rummaged through all the stuff in my pickup truck.
Yeah.
And somebody literally blatantly walked right in the front yard. Lights are on. We're right in there eating and dug through my pickup truck. And it was the craziest thing. They didn't steal anything. And they had even, in the console, there was money in there. They didn't even take that.
Wow, that's amazing.
It was. And I called, when we called the police, they said they were looking for a gun.
Yeah.
And when they're looking for a gun so they can commit a crime with it and, and it's doesn't trace back to them.
Right.
But still, I'm thinking, man, you see $50 there, go ahead and throw it in your pocket
Yeah.
too. You know what I mean?
Well, when we were kids growing up, it was nothing for us to go to the neighbors and leave a note. Hey, I borrowed your lawnmower, or, I
Same.
borrowed this, and they do the same vice versa to us. And nobody ever thought anything about it, and nowadays you got to be a little more careful around here, but it's still a great place to live.
Yeah. That brings up a good point, though, because it's wild the difference in, like when I was a kid, we all rode bikes everywhere, and everybody knew everybody in the neighborhood. And our rule of thumb was just be home by dark.
Yeah.
But literally, we could run rampant and go wherever we wanted. And now it's like, man, you can't let your kids go anywhere.
Well, back there in the 60s and 70s, my mom was known as the neighborhood discipliner. Everybody hung out at our house, played and all, but if somebody got in trouble, everybody got in trouble. But, growing up out there, and we seen the change happening. And that's why my dad was like, I'm done with this. I'm coming back. And so he came back to Missouri. He was born and raised here. And so
So was your mom from California?
yeah, she was born and raised in California. When we moved out here, she was the minority because she's Hispanic.
Oh.
So we moved to a little town called Kazee Mills. It's not Kissy Mills.
Yeah.
I was told that the first day on the bus by a little
I called it
blonde-headed.
Kissy Mills for a
Yeah.
long time.
There was a little blonde-headed gal that was riding the bus, and I asked her, I said, well, what makes you know so much about it? I said, are you like the mayor? And she goes, no, my great-grandfather founded it, and her last name was Kazee.
Wow.
So I was put straight right away.
There is not much to that little town.
No, there is not.
We actually, when we bought this piece of property we have now, we looked at a piece down in Kissy Mills.
Yeah.
And land's cheap, man, around in there. It was then.
It was then, yeah.
But yeah, so man, you blink, you miss that one, and that little town's kind of run down, right? It's
Yeah, well, there's nothing left there now. There used
just
to
like
be
those little buildings on the left side of the highway, right?
Yeah, it used to be a grocery store owned by the Sanders. Used to be a grocery store, had the post office in it, and a feed mill or feed store, and And then across the street at the Wedge, there was a pool hall and a pizza restaurant, and all that stuff's gone now.
Cool, man.
It's all gone.
Yeah, there's not a lot of people that want to go in and redo and kind of fix stuff up.
No.
My sister, they bought if you get down on the square anywhere, man, it's like you get into some money, number one, with property real estate, and then fixing it, because these 100-year-old buildings, this building we're in right now is over 100 years old.
Yeah.
This was an old
Been
bank.
here a long time.
I think this might be the oldest building in Branson. Don't quote me on that, but give or take a few years, it is. This used to be the bank.
See, I don't remember what year. Branson had a huge fire, and there was only 4 buildings left here.
Yeah.
And they started rebuilding, and that's when they put sidewalks in. Branson used to be known as having the most concrete sidewalks than any city in the Taney County area. Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of pictures. I've seen some pictures of this place, and there's horses and buggies out front.
Yeah.
And it's all dirt all the way around it.
Yep.
So I'm betting it's probably up there. I'm thinking late 1800s or something.
Yeah, this it's old, that's for sure.
Yeah, but anyway, so my sister, they bought a business or a building in was it Carthage, and it's an old building, and they have spent so much money just trying to update it, fix things. You know, your wiring in there is cloth housed wiring, you know, cloth insulated. So you go to strip back wire to do any electrical, and it's made out of cloth, and it's falling apart because it's 100 years old. And your air conditioners, you know, are out of date, and the whole building's sagging off the hill. So it's such a burden and such a big thing when you buy an old building to try to restore it. But it really is. There's nothing quite like the old buildings, because they're just not, they don't care anymore. There's no character in anything anymore.
And the thing is, with these old buildings, we hate to see them go.
Yeah.
I mean, it's heritage. Yeah. It's history. That's what, you know, that's how all this got started, and we hate to see them go.
Well, there's a lot of people that hate history.
Yeah.
You know, they tear statues down and drag them around.
Well, that's true too. Yeah. Yeah, we don't like the history, so.
Yeah, I think there was I think
they pick and choose that kind of history.
Yeah, that's probably true too. Man, that's another thing. I just can't fathom that. You know, they always say, like, learn from history, and then the way that you learn from history is you remember history. But you put something in the past and you forget about it, you're probably going to find yourself making that same mistake again.
Sure is. That's what we call going around that same mountain.
It is, man. Or insanity, where you just keep doing the same thing wrong.
See, like I said, my mom was Hispanic when she moved here, and there was no Hispanic people. There was no people of color in this area when we moved here in the late 70s.
Yeah.
And so it was, when I went to school, everybody thought I was a Samoan. I get real dark. I had an afro. I weighed 218, and in the 7th grade was benching 220. So I mean, I was dark and with an afro, and everybody thought I was a Samoan from California.
It's funny, man. Samoans always get that rep of being, you know, real big, and And we went to Hawaii back in I think it was early 2000s or sometime, but. It's not all Samoans aren't huge.
No,
like that.
No.
But
Hawaiians
it's funny.
and
yeah. Anytime you see a big guy like that, like, man, he must be Samoan.
Well, growing up in California, on our block, there was pretty much every nationality you could imagine on our dead end block. And then I went to school with pretty much every nationality. And then I moved out here and walked into school at Forsyth, and there's all these guys in their bell-bottom jeans, bibbed overalls, flannel shirts, cowboy boots. Yeah. And I've got Vans tennis shoes on, Ocean Pacific shorts, and a Lightning Bolt T-shirt with a fro. Yeah, I kind of stuck out.
Well, that's the cool stuff now. That's making a comeback. Not the bell-bottoms, but...
No.
But yeah, man, and I think pretty much all of Missouri was similar to that back then. I mean, my dad and his whole crew was from up in the Kansas City area. Yeah. And that's how it was there, you know. Long hair, bell-bottoms, and disco
stuff.
Disco whatever you're doing.
Well, my dad was born and raised in the Boot Hill in a little town called Puxico. And he went out into California in the late 40s, I think it was, to do construction work and stuff. And he finally got fed up and moved us back out here. Like I said, the Beverly Hillbillies in reverse.
Yeah, I bet you that too. That's probably like a big income difference, right?
Big income difference.
So you pretty much have to make 6 figures out there.
You have to make a lot of money. And luckily, He got in construction work. He put himself through school at GM, Ford, and Chrysler at night to finally buy his own garage. He always wanted to be a mechanic, and for long, I mean, he had a big garage, a lot of customers, and
That's crazy. That's one thing I will say about California. I don't know if I've known some people that have come from California, but I don't think I've ever known somebody that came from California to here that didn't make something of themselves.
that's right.
It's almost like the hustle and bustle is so great out there that when you get back here, everybody else is just kind of lounging around and you're still hustling.
Yep.
And that's pretty much how everybody from California I've ever
Well,
known
they're all
has
laid
been.
back, pretty.
Yeah.
I mean, and there's a lot of competition out there.
Yeah, and maybe that's the older maybe that's your generation too.
Yeah.
You know, my generation or the people that right here behind me may not be the hustling bustlers. They're probably the complainers and something else. But,
Yeah.
but you know, so the people that I'm talking about are not in my age bracket. They're older
Right.
than I am, and they came back here and just worked their ass off. And a lot of them did real estate type stuff.
Sure did.
I know this guy. He sold basically one property out in California, and that one property was enough money to buy 5 here.
That's right.
And,
That's still that way today.
Yeah.
I don't understand why anybody would
wild.
want to buy anything in California, but
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, it's the most beautiful state.
it's
in the United
gorgeous,
States.
but it's not named the state's not named, the land of fruits and nuts for nothing.
It is, man. Literally, politics and politicians have really ruined that.
Man, it's tough.
But you got to put it on people too. Like people are voting for these, these weird policies and these weird people and all this trouble. And
I can tell you this: my dad never registered to vote. Why? I don't know. But he never complained about the government. And he made a statement. He says, if I'm not going to take the time to vote and do that, he goes, I don't have a right to complain. But there are so many people out here that still don't vote. That would probably be good voters to get good people in. But boy, they sure like to gripe about it.
Yeah, that's kind of a concern too. It's like, I don't know, and I don't know what you do with that. I don't know how you get people to hit the streets and vote. But I think a lot of people feel like it's just so massive these days. Like, what difference am I really going to make?
We all make a difference no matter what.
Yeah, I know.
If we choose to get up and go to work every day, we're making a difference.
Yeah.
If we choose to not get up and go to work, we make a difference too,
right.
because we become a burden.
Yeah.
So everything we do makes a difference, whether right or wrong, good or bad, it makes a difference.
Yeah. I just know, I know from experience, I've gone into you come on vote day and you're going into you're registered to vote, gets down to the wire and you're like, my guy's leading by so much. I don't need to go in and vote.
I still go.
I know, and I should. I think it was actually, the first time Trump ran. He was winning by so much. I'm just in Missouri. I'm like, nah, I won't even go.
Yep.
But which, of course, what we thought the second time he was running too, until the next morning.
Till the next morning when everybody was like, oh no.
Yeah, I still don't know what's going on with that. Something's a little fishy. We won't say the VF word, but I'm thinking some of that maybe happened.
It's kind of like the JFK stuff. We'll never know really what happened.
Well, if Trump had his way, we might know.
Yeah.
But Kevin Costner made a movie about that, I think.
Yeah.
Did you ever see that?
I watched that, yeah.
Really? I don't think I've seen it, but yeah, I don't know. That's a tough one too. I went down the rabbit hole of conspiracies on that there for a while, actually, because I think it was like the bullet hole that was in JFK. It was like from an AR-15 or something like that.
Different round.
Yeah, which is what or some type of gun that Secret Service carried.
Yeah.
And which he may have gotten shot by the other guy, but then, in all the freak out, one of his Secret Service guys accidentally shot him just trying to help him out or something. But yeah.
I've never really dug into that. I just know that something wasn't right.
That's right. But why? I don't understand. Why hide stuff like that from the American people?
They think they're protecting us. They
From
think
what?
that,
This late,
Well, yeah, they still think they're going to protect us, and we don't really need to know the whole story, kind of stuff. But
Yeah, it's almost like a superior thing.
Yeah.
We know. That's all that
matters.
You guys don't need to know. We'll take care of it.
That kind of stuff drives me nuts.
Me too.
You know,
Because the only reason they know is because us little guys voted them there so they could find this stuff out.
yeah, and then they keep it hid.
Yeah, yeah.
It
And there's
really
not
does.
there's not very many of them that aren't like that. Like there's probably, I can count on one hand people that I still, and I don't know for sure, but people that I feel like have held their word and up to their vote, and when they get up there, like Josh Hawley's one of them.
It's society and the peer pressure from those places sure changed a lot of good men and women.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know, man. That whole thing is just, it's so it's a fascinating subject because we aren't a country, we hadn't been up until this point, a country where somebody could get voted into an office and make so much money. We were a country of volunteers. And just coming back to the firefighter things, like a senator or whatever these people are making, they shouldn't be making millions.
Oh, they're making a killing.
What is it? Nancy Pelosi's husband's doing these trade deals that are worth
millions of dollars.
And somehow, like, number one, how's that not a conflict of interest, right? And number two, we should not have anybody going into public service because it's called public service.
That's right.
And they shouldn't be going into public service and then coming out a millionaire. It shouldn't happen.
Nope, they're making a killing.
It's wild, man. And that's another thing about Trump. Like, he's the only guy that went in there and came out with a lower net worth or whatever than when he went in.
And what did he do with his paycheck every year?
Donated it, as far as I know.
Yeah, a lot of it went to the VFW.
Yeah.
A lot of it was paid for our veterans. And
he shed a lot of light on stuff like that, man.
Yeah.
Helping veterans and other stuff like that.
You get all these people that run, and you have some really good people that get in here and want to do the right thing, and people go out here and they try to trash them, try to make them look bad and all.
Well, he has mean tweets.
So, yeah. And I'll guarantee you there's not a one of them up there that hasn't done something wrong or messed up in their lives. So if I was going to run, I'd tell everybody, okay, let's get my dirty laundry out here right now. Let's get it all done. I've done this, I've done that. So now my competitor can't come in and say, well, you did this, you did that. Okay, yeah, I put it all out there because there isn't a person on this earth that hasn't messed up or done something wrong.
Did you ever see that movie 8 Mile with Eminem, the
No,
hip-hop
I haven't.
artist? Well, so it's like, he's like a up-and-coming, he's trying to make it in rap and hip-hop, and he's going to these, basically where they have like a rap battle. You rap battle the other guy, and whoever can talk the most shit about the other guy in a rap wins. And what made me think about this is he gets up on stage, and he knows everything bad this guy is going to say about him. And he says it about himself before the guy gets a chance to.
Yeah.
He's talking all this shit about himself in his own rap. He's like, I know what you're going to say, and this is, and he says it first. And when it's the guy's turn, he has no clue what to say.
Yeah.
And that's that's exactly what that is.
Well, we seen it with Josh Hawley.
Yeah.
They ran that guy through the mill and all sorts of stuff. But like I said, there's not a one of them on the other side that can go through there and say, look, I'm pristine.
Yeah.
We've all have faults. We've all done things. And I hate bad trashing people.
Yeah. And usually it's worse. Like you've got like the Anthony Weiner guy that did all the stuff that he did. And it's like every other year the Clintons are involved in some kind of hoax about them killing people.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, it's wild. Like I think that somebody even died today. Maybe one of the prosecutors for Clinton. Did you see that on the news?
No, I haven't seen it. But
immediately they're like blowing it up because, it's a guy that prosecuted Clinton and he died at an early age. He's only like 76 or something. So I think immediately everybody jumps on that. Clinton must have killed him.
Probably.
Bus. But and there's a lot of those weird, but it's so crazy how many things can be kind of drummed up as a conspiracy theory now.
Oh, yeah.
Like, if you don't believe in the set guidelines of what the media or the news is telling you to believe, you're a conspiracy theorist.
That's right.
If you don't believe that there may have been some voter fraud, you're a conspiracy theorist. But it's so weird, and we're in this awkward time of, if the right is so right and the wrong is so wrong, and if you don't agree with me, you're wrong, and that's death worthy.
Yep, they're going to put you in that group and set you out there.
It's so weird, man.
Well, I remember as a kid growing up, newscasters, you know, they would dig into whole stories, true stories. They
Yeah.
wouldn't take what was being passed down the street. Today, you walk out
Journalism.
on the street, it's just, okay, I heard so-and-so did this. Okay, well, we're going to report on that. You know, they don't dig into stuff anymore. They just try to feed us, you know.
You cannot hardly find real journalism anymore.
Not anymore.
It's so crazy. And I've got a couple examples of who I thought were, you know, like real journalists, and one of them I don't care that much for, Megyn Kelly. I do not care much for her as a news host or whatever you want to call her, news anchor, but she did, man. She would pretty well try to kind of figure out the things that she disagreed and that she agreed with, and she would say wrongdoing on both sides.
Right.
And the other person who's still today, and he is like one of my favorites, is Tucker Carlson, man.
Yeah.
That guy will report, and that's why he's so popular. It shows. He will report on stuff that nobody else is talking about.
That's right. But he does the work to dig in and find out both sides.
He
of the story.
does. I have seen him bring Republicans on there and just chew their ass. And
Yeah.
it's like they're caught off guard because, oh, well, Fox News is supposed to be right wing, you know, and then he just mauls them.
Yeah.
But he doesn't give a shit about any of that. But and that's kind of like how I see myself. It's like I don't care right, left. I don't care about any of that shit. Here's the way I feel. Here are the things that I care about, whether you're on the right or left. If I agree with them, I don't care if you're on the right or the left.
Right.
It just so happens that the left is like,
Well, we forgot that we all have to learn to agree to disagree.
that's right.
You know, whether you take my advice or not, I put it out there, I'm going to go on.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not going to get all butthurt over it and whine and cry and do all this. And we as people, we forgot that. You know, if it's either my way or the highway anymore, and so then they left wing you or, you know, right wing you, and it stinks out there because, boy, you don't know.
It is, man.
I can even remember what's happen.
I remember like high school, you get in a fight. If you got in a fist fight or you got in a fight with somebody, it usually ended with a handshake. Like, you know, and you just don't see stuff like that anymore. You see like the knockout game or kids get knocked out and then the other guy runs. Like when I was in school, even if you got in a fight with somebody, it's like, okay, bygones be bygones. We'll shake. We're good now.
That's the way it was when I was in school.
Yeah.
A couple of my friends and I, good friends, we went round and round, and when we were done, we were that evening at the arcade having a Coke and playing some video games there at the arcade. Nobody brought out knives or guns or all this stuff. I mean, and we were the area that carried guns in our cars to school, pocket knives.
Yeah, it never. We used to come to school. Guys in my school would go deer hunting before school, shoot a deer, have it in the back of the truck with the rifle in the truck. There's no big deal.
We did that many a time.
And to me, it still shouldn't be a big deal.
Should not be a big deal, but we in society cannot control ourselves anymore.
Yeah.
We think, well, that guy said something bad about me. I'm going to go home and get a gun and shoot everybody. Stop that, man.
Yeah.
I mean, if he said something bad about you, go call him out. Go toe to toe, and when you're done, go have a Coke.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of it's just their people are these values and these things are instilled in them. Like you're a victim, you know, or you have a mental problem, or this is okay because you feel this way, and it's like nobody ever just says you're a dumbass anymore.
Yeah. No.
And man, people have to start doing that again.
Well, you know, I'd get in a fight at school. They'd spank me in school.
Yeah.
I thought it was so funny.
Our schools still do that.
Yeah. I thought it was pretty
Yeah.
funny because my mom hit harder than any of the teachers that ever hit me. So, plus she was Mexican. I mean, you just didn't give her no crap because she'd take you out right away in front of God or
she wasn't
anybody.
going to cut you any slack.
Yeah. And then when you got home, you got in trouble.
Yeah.
Oh, you know, it's not right to fight and all that. You're not supposed to do that. But, you know, you got in trouble, you got spanked, and then you were outside once you changed out of your school clothes and had a good time, you know. But, boy, not anymore. You know, it's like, why did they pick on my kid? Why, you know?
Oh, yeah. I mean, everybody plays
Drives
the victim.
me nuts.
And then they have their kid play the victim.
Yeah.
And you talk about school spanking. We're almost in a society where parents can't even spank anymore.
That's right.
And I don't know, man. It's all that stuff is just so scary.
I remember as a kid growing up, my mom didn't care if you were in the middle of the Lucky grocery store or Sears or J.C. Penney's. You showed out, boy, she'd nail you.
Yeah.
My mom was like a German, like a Sherman tank. She was slow and steady, always on you. My dad was like a tea kettle. He'd spank you for stuff that happened 3 months ago.
Yeah.
But
wait for it to boil over.
Yeah, he'd boil over and finally get you for everything. But it was, society today, boy. I remember I work part-time as a manager at Whitewater, and I see kids out there throwing fits and the way they act to their parents. Boy, you would have never done that to my mom or dad.
Yeah.
You'd have picked your teeth up in the backyard and picked your butt up off the ground because
It's soft, man.
boy,
It is
getting
so
rough
soft
out there.
Yeah, and look, I kind of have a soft spot for these parents because I know exactly how they feel, and the last thing you want to do is like, I hate yelling at my kids. I hate spanking my kids.
Yeah.
I hate having to do any kind of discipline to my kids just because you love your kids so much. But every time that I have to do anything like that, I remember to tell myself, I'm not doing it for me. I'm doing it for them.
For them.
Because if you don't do this, they're going to turn out to be the shittiest human being. And that's almost where we're at. It's like we've got a society full of shitty human beings.
Well, then they end up at the jail with me, and I'm booking them in, and
That's
they stay
it,
at my
man.
motel for a while. So.
Yeah. Yeah.
But a lot of parents today want society to take care of their children.
Yeah.
Or it's,
This has actually been a topic that we've talked about because it's like a lot of people realize that they are giving up freedom with responsibility.
That's right.
And they would rather give up the freedom so they don't have the responsibility as a burden.
That's right.
And not me. I feel like sometimes I was born in the wrong era because I feel like I would have made it really good, like on a homestead,
Yeah.
farming, hunting, and just the harder you work, the better life you live.
Yeah.
That's the way it used to be.
That's right.
And now it's like working hard means you're not around your family, you're not around your kids, you're in an office somewhere, and you're grinding away to make somebody else a lot of money. That's what working hard is now.
Well, yeah, and the problem is, too, you go out and you work really hard. You can't get ahead because things are so inflated. It's just crazy.
Yeah, it's wild.
So then your wife has to go to work. So who's there to take care of your kids?
Yeah.
They miss out on a lot of stuff. Family time. Family time is very important with your children.
Yeah.
That's where they get their sense of well-being, their love, and a lot of them show out because that's the only attention they get. The only time they get is because mom and dad will pay attention to me then because I'm in trouble.
That's it, man. It's like a Google review.
Yeah,
You get them for the bad stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can definitely see that a lot. Like, if your parents are too busy, and they do a good job portraying that in movies.
Oh,
because
yeah.
if your dad doesn't ever pay attention to him, but if I throw a rock at his Corvette, he's
Yeah.
going to pay attention to him.
That's right.
So yeah, but
Well, that even started back in Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
yeah, his the friend's dad.
Yeah, for sure.
Gosh, that's right, man. That's a good movie too.
I'm showing my age for sure.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to say earlier. It's like, you and I have got a pretty big gap between us, 30 years probably, but we're sitting here talking about things in high school the way they were then, in your high school days, and then my high school days. So just think, from that time frame to that time frame, not much changed.
Yeah.
And then going from my time to what we are now, which is probably 15, 16 years. No, probably, 16, 18 years. It's changed so much.
Dramatic. I go back to, I spend a lot of time at the schools and stuff. I like to watch the sports. My friends, my children never played any sports. My daughter didn't like to sweat. My son was more interested in rules than learning the actual sport. And so never did that. So a lot of my friends that work with me and I'm around, I go to their kids' events and root them on and watch and have a good time. But you go back to these schools and you look and see what's going on, man, it's really changed.
It is.
The last 15, 18 years, it's really changed.
Yeah. A really popular saying when I was younger was, what is it? Sticks and stones will break your bones, but words will never hurt. What the hell happened to that?
Well, they did if they threw a dictionary at it.
Yeah.
And we got hit with a few of those.
That was the comeback.
Yeah.
I mean, but honestly, man, you cannot go anywhere. I think it was Connor told me it was at their school. I guess the principal came in. Maybe this was the end of last year or something, and they had a kid, a boy, that was wearing a dress around school, right? And which, whatever, if his parents are cool with it and that's the way he feels comfortable, whatever.
It's his thing.
That's right. But for the principal to come into every classroom and say to all these teenage boys, you're not allowed to say gay anymore, is absolutely asinine.
It's not right.
And gay has always been just like that's gay. This is gay. That's gay. I still do. Well, I probably still did that up until recently, because it just sounds, a guy as old as me, it sounds stupid saying stuff like that. But no, my first reaction to it was like, I mean, if I was Connor and I was that kid in that school, I would have said to the principal, "That's gay," when he told me that.
Well, the thing is, before my era, the word gay was in a lot of songs. Okay, gay meant you were happy, you were free, you were having a good time, life was good. And today, those old songs have been changed. They don't say the word gay in a lot of them when they sing them. They say other things.
It's wild, man.
I always, when we were growing up, we had two men lived across the street from us, great guys. Nothing wrong with them. And they were homosexual. To me, that was homosexual, not gay, because when I was growing up, we didn't really use the word gay for that. You know, it was still in the time of having a good time, a gay old time, and stuff like that.
You're
and
showing age now.
Nowadays, no, you don't.
No,
you can't use
gay meant gay in my age.
Yeah,
like
and
if we saw two
age,
dudes that looked gay, we'd say those guys are gay.
Yeah.
And that was kind of why it became this slang thing. Your friends acting like a jackass. You say, "Quit being so gay."
Yeah.
And it was just like a quick, witty comeback, and it's almost like if we have to start censoring words that just hurt people's feelings, but may not be, really derogatory. Which to me, gay is not a derogatory really word. I wouldn't call it a curse word, but it's kind of like with little people or midgets or dwarfs or whatever they want to be called nowadays. It's like you can't call them a midget. You're supposed to call them a dwarf or a little person or something like that. But it's like, who gets to decide what words upset society? Yeah.
You could walk up here right now and you can look at me and go, "Wow, Gyger, you're pretty fat." Okay. I grew up that way.
Yeah.
My family, I was even called chubby in my family. That was one of my nicknames.
Yeah.
I mean, who cares? Yeah. I know I am.
I say more stuff about myself being fat than anybody else does.
I do all the time.
Yeah. And I do get in the habit of I'll say things because I'm pretty outspoken. Like when you sat down in here and the light hit your head, the first thing I said was something about your bald head.
Yeah, it's shining.
And to me, it's never about like I'm not trying to punch down at somebody.
No.
To me, it's like,
but it was the truth.
Yeah, that's kind of my problem is I kind of just whatever comes to mind, I say it. And I would expect people to do the same to me, but I'm not really soft-skinned. I don't get that
Me
upset.
either.
So when we're in such a society that's so everything you say upsets somebody, I think the reason why is because as Americans, we haven't had anything to really be upset about in a long time.
Been a long time.
And until we have something to truly be upset about, I watched a documentary or something on the Civil War. I don't know, a few nights ago. Those were hard times.
One
You could go around screaming the most profane words right now, and nobody would even care.
Nope.
Because you actually had real problems back then.
You sure did.
And it was just so wild, man. I mean, you'd go into battle and 30,000 people, and we were all Americans. 30,000 people are dead.
Yeah. Killing brothers, uncles, nephews,
And now you're worried about one kid that's wearing a dress around a middle school.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's wild, man. And it's going to take something to wake us up.
Society's getting rough, man.
Yeah, yeah.
We don't start making some changes and start learning to stand up for one another and what's right, we're going to be in a world of hurt.
Yeah. Well, I think I don't know who first said this, but every big, strong world power has been brought to their knees at some point. And maybe we're almost to that point. I mean, we've been on cloud nine since the beginning.
I don't worry about myself with this society and things going on. I worry about my children's children, children like your children. What's the next 10, 15, 20 years going to bring in this country if we don't start making some changes soon?
Yeah. I don't know, man. We are so divided right now. I worry. I worry about the long term too. But I would go to say if I thought over the next 10 years it was going to be worse than over the next 20 years, I would say every day of the week.
Yeah.
I am more scared about what's to come in the next 5 to 10 years than the way it'll be in 20 years. I think in 20 years we're going to go through a hard time. I think we're going to come to the realization that all the crap that we think is hard right now isn't so hard.
Nope.
And in 20 years, hopefully we kind of do a reset. And look, I mean, we can learn from our mistakes because our country has had racism and slavery and, against gays or whatever you want to call that. But it's like now they try to, the envelope is trying to be pushed so far the other direction. There's not been a country that's been created without slavery. And there hasn't been a race of people that hasn't been a slave.
That's right.
So like, I think there was talk about kind of giving some kind of financial, handouts for people that have had ancestors that have been a slave at some point. You better get that handout ready for every single person in the United States because somebody's ancestor at one time or another has been a slave.
Yeah, the only true Americans were the American Indians.
Yeah.
They were here first, and then the rest of us come in and started kicking them around.
That's it, man.
And, I mean, come on.
I kind of have an unpopular opinion about that because every time people talk about Indians, usually people talk so highly of, Indian this and Indian that, and they were the people, and I'm thinking, yeah, we kicked their ass to move in here, though, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
And so my opinion on that's really kind of unpopular, but that's human nature. It's like find, conquer, and take over. Yep. And there's always going to be somebody else that's going to do it.
Right.
It's kind of like the there's always going to be somebody bigger and stronger.
Well, even the in Mexico, even the Mexicans came up and they fought with the Indians all the years and stuff, or the Spaniards. Everybody's done something like that. So there's when people say, well, we're a melting pot. Everybody in this United States has been melted together so much it's not funny. I've had people say, "Hey," said, you're half Mexican. Don't you think these people from Mexico and Haiti and all should cross that border for free? I'm like, no.
Usually it's people that have that kind of background and heritage. They say no.
My grandfather got a work visa, worked hard, came to the United States. Worked hard farming, worked hard repairing wooden water lines. I mean, he raised his kids here. He worked hard and all. That's the American dream.
That's it.
The Chinese people that came in and worked the railroads and worked hard to live and survive and all, that's the American dream.
Yeah.
And
those are the immigrants that people are talking about when they say those things, when they say we immigrated here. Not the people that are coming over and breaking the law literally is their first thing here. Their first step in our country, they're breaking the law.
Yep. And so we're going to give them food. We're going to give them financial backing. Yep. We're going to give them a free ride to Washington. Yeah.
All these left people, man, all these left people, they come on the news and they say, our country was built on the backs of immigrants. And really, I mean, in reality, we're all immigrants. But they aren't the immigrants then that built this country, that what we have rummaging across the border looking for free stuff now.
Well, my father's family, they came from pretty much, I'm going to say Germany or somewhere over there with the last name Gyger. And obviously they wasn't the brightest because everybody that has the last name Gyger is Geiger. So somebody else spelled it for him because it was better. Gyger, But I mean, they came here. They did everything they had to. They went to the swamps in southeast Missouri. They cleared the swamps. They raised a family. They raised a farm. That's the American dream.
That's it, man.
That's it, man. And so we're all just a huge melting pot, but you shouldn't get all these free handouts.
And I think that a lot of these, and you brought up Hispanics, I think a lot of these people that work their butts off to get here the right way, and I don't want to say, I think that the Democrats really think that's going to bite them in the ass, man. I think that they're trying to get all these people here, and I think that they're going to get those votes, but I don't think they're going to. I think at the end of the day, these people probably vote more conservative than they realize.
There's a lot of Hispanic people I've watched on the news and stuff that, yes, they did come over here illegally, but yet they've worked hard. Now
Yeah.
they're paying taxes. They got their citizenships. They don't want those people coming up here either
Yeah.
because they did what was right.
Yeah.
And the majority want to do what's right. But for these that are coming right now, they're sending, criminals, drug addicts, murderers.
Whoa, you're
and
starting
we're
to sound like
just-
Trump now.
We're just opening it all up.
Yeah.
I mean, and any nationality can do that. I mean, it's just not Mexican.
I
or
got a buddy that
Hispanics
came here
or
from
all,
Russia.
so, yeah.
And I don't know for sure. I'd like to get him on here because their story is really interesting. And they came from Russia. I think they came over on a work visa or something like that with his parents. Anyway, they just now got able to be legal, and they've been here forever.
Yeah.
And he and his family are some of the hardest working people I've ever known in my entire life. And the crazy thing is they are more patriotic, proud Americans than most full Americans.
Yeah, people that were born and raised here all their life, generation after
It's great.
generation.
Well, they just take for granted, man.
Yeah.
And these guys, they know what they came from. They know how great it is here. It's like it's like that basketball player that just got arrested over in Russia,
Yeah.
right? Like they want to do all this bitching and complaining here about the stupidest things, and she breaks one little law that would get you a slap on the wrist here, and she's in prison for 9 years over there.
Yeah, that's right.
Now, you want to talk about oppression or all these problems that we have, go to a different country that lives that way, and you'll understand that you're not in that.
But what's amazing is that, it's out there. Their videos, everything. She talked about all the oppression on her and how bad the United States was to black people and all this other stuff. But yet, who was the first one she started crying to when she ended up getting this sentence? Everybody's like, well, we need to go get her. We need to go get her. She made that choice.
Yeah.
I make choices. I'm in debt. I made choices. Nobody's coming and bailing me out.
Yeah. I think that's
So-
the whole talk on the student loan stuff too, right? It's
Yeah,
like,
well, that's a lot of it too. I'm happy for my kids. My son worked hard. He's paid a lot of his debt off.
yeah.
My daughter the same way. They work hard. They both have held a job down ever since they were young,
Yeah.
and they went to school. I'm happy for them, but I still don't think it's right.
Yeah,
And that's
wild.
my opinion.
It's wild though, man, because I think it was Mike Rowe that said, he said, I've got a lot of friends that they chose not to go to college. They chose to go straight into the work field. And they maybe started a business in excavating, and they bought a backhoe or they bought a bobcat, and that cost them $30,000.
Yeah.
Are you going to pay them back for that? Because here's the thing: they started paying into the economy. They chose, but our country has gotten this, and it's weird. We've got this thing. We have these certain. I'll just say they're traditions. You graduate high school. You go to college. You get a degree. You live in your dorm room. You go through your little party phase, and then you go out and you get on with the world. And it's almost like this path that you're supposed to take as an American to live the American dream.
Right.
And the funny thing is, as an adult, if I take a step back and I look at that path is really expensive. And I end up paying a lot of money into the system with that path.
Yes.
And that's the honestly, my biggest fear in this country is that literally every path in this country involves shelling a lot of money out to entities of healthcare or college education or government, and everything is so money motivated, and it's almost like whoever, our country is open to the highest bidder is what it feels like.
I would have went to college if I could have afforded it.
Yeah.
I couldn't afford it, so I chose to do labor careers. I could not afford to go to college. I would have loved
Like a tech
to.
school or something?
So I chose firefighting. I chose EMS. 2 weeks out of high school, I went to work for Taney County Ambulance.
Yeah.
I mean, that was my field. I chose that field. First thing, I've always been a servant of the people. I love serving and helping people. But it never made me very good money, that's for sure.
Well, you need to be a senator.
Yeah, it costed me a lot. So, but, I couldn't put that burden on my parents.
Yeah.
I mean, they were hardworking. My dad worked every day, 7 days a week from sun up, sundown. Couldn't put that burden on him. So it was my choice not to go to college.
Yeah.
I didn't want the huge debt. I couldn't afford it. Couldn't make enough money in the area I lived in to afford it and all. About 10, 12 years ago, I thought about going to nursing school. once again, I was like, I just can't eat that debt.
Yeah.
I can't do it.
Mm.
So, maybe
Wonder
I
how many
should have.
people they're scaring away.
Well, maybe I should have, because see, now I'd have been debt free.
Yeah.
Making pretty good salary, traveling nurses, all that stuff, make a
I'm
killing.
not sure
man.
I could even say you'd be debt free because college is so freaking expensive.
Oh, it's high.
Brandy's this. I mean, if this all goes through, that won't even make a dent in what we have.
Well, luckily, like for my son, he's worked hard, pays a lot on his schooling and stuff.
Has he been paying through this though? Because it's all been postponed.
So paid through what?
So through COVID, Biden keeps extending out the non-payment plan where you don't have to make any payments.
He's making his payments. He's been staying up on it. He's hardworking, and
see, I don't know how that works.
He gets a good bonus every year and stuff, but he earns it.
Yeah,
the kids online all the time working, and
that's good.
So
is he doing something
I'm happy
remote?
for him. He works for USAA Insurance.
Oh, okay.
Great company to work for, and he works in San Antonio at the main office down there, and they fly him across the country to do stuff.
Yeah.
And he makes security programs, fixes programs, does all sorts of stuff. Can't put a headlight in his car, but the kid can do that, So
I had my old CEO was like that because I saw a lot of similarities between me and him, and I think he did too, and we used to talk about that, but. Man, when it came to that, there's no similarities. He's like, I don't even know how to start a lawnmower.
Yeah, my son, like I said, man, he is. When you put him in that computer stuff, he's got a genius IQ.
Yeah.
But when it comes to work on his car, he calls Dad.
Yeah.
And I just soon he would.
The old
I don't want
country
him.
boy.
Yeah, I don't want him to mess anything up.
Yeah.
So.
Where you said he lives out in Houston?
In San Antonio.
Oh, San Antonio.
Yeah, he's been there for quite a few years now.
Yeah. And that's a cool town.
It's an awesome town.
That Riverwalk stuff, so cool.
Yeah.
They've had a lot of crime stuff going on out there, though, right?
Yeah, they've had a lot. Me and my my wife and my daughter, my ex-wife, we were there visiting, and I was standing in the parking lot one night just enjoying the nice cool air because it was hot that day. And
yeah.
Next thing I hear is 6 gunshots ring out, 2 cars go flying by, and all. And here I am, ducked down behind a car, got my gun out, cop mode, and all this stuff. And it was, the crime. What they were there for, a guy went over there to buy a pair of tennis shoes from another guy, and the guy held him up and put a couple of rounds, one in the butt cheek and one in the thigh, in the guy. And luckily they took off to the hospital, but they got him. They got it all figured out. But I'm standing in the parking lot over a pair of tennis shoes.
It's crazy,
man.
man.
I'll shoot you dead over a pair of tennis shoes.
It is so
man.
weird. It was a few years ago they started having those Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace scares because people would come to an agreement on an item to buy, and then the person showing up with supposedly the item for sale would kill the person that came to buy the item and steal a couple grand from them.
Steal the money.
Like, it's just wild that we're, that we're in a place in society where taking a life is worth $2,000.
Oh yeah,
or less.
Or
a
less.
pair of shoes.
Look how many convenience store clerks, $50 in cash. Come on,
man. I've seen some wild stuff just recently on YouTube. There was we saw one. This kid goes into a or it's some kind of little store, some kind of little market or something like that. And he's going to hold the place up for just register money.
Yeah.
And the dude pulls out a knife and stabs this kid, man. And I don't know, there's kind of a soft spot in my heart. It's like, I know that this kid probably just, he's so brainwashed. People are so brainwashed this day and age. He thinks that he can go and rob that place and there's no repercussions.
Right.
And he's probably not that bad of a kid. Con, why don't you see if you can pull that up for us real quick on YouTube? Pull up kid gets stabbed robbing store, something like that on YouTube. But it's just, man, it's so crazy. These young people. Did you see that video that was caught on a Ring camera where the dad shot the guy?
Shot the guy that was trying to get into his house.
Yeah,
to get to his daughter.
A lot of people are everybody's all about, oh, he got what he deserved and this and that. And it's man, that's a 17, 18-year-old kid.
Young man. He was young.
And that's just tough for me because, look, I'm the first person, I've got guns, and everybody pretty well knows, don't break in my house. But that's a hard call for me right there.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm going to shoot that kid.
I
don't think I'm going to shoot that kid. I would like to think that you know his family, or you know him. If he's been dating your daughter for any amount of time, kind of the way he is. And I don't know, man, kids are young and they go through these hard, where they feel like they're in love in these relationships. And I know you feel like it's the end of the world when your significant other or whatever leaves you, and you're just like helpless, right?
Well, you could tell that kid was on something. I mean, he was definitely on something.
Yeah, he definitely had something in his mind.
But if he came in my house, he'd probably meet my foot first.
Exactly.
And then if he pulled a gun or a knife,
yeah,
he'd meet the end of my gun.
Yeah. I mean, if you could see, like, to me, my thing is always kind of like, if you see something that's life-threatening, if he had a knife even.
Yeah.
If he had any kind of weapon, I can justify shooting him. But you can tell in the videos, like, he's
trying to force his way through the door.
He's forcing his way through the door, and he's hell-bent on, like, his girlfriend's leaving him, and he's, I don't want to try to get in the mind of this kid, but it didn't seem to me like he was intent on hurting somebody. He just didn't know what to do.
Yep, that was crazy.
It was, man. Keep going, Con. Scroll down a little bit. Or wait, that might be it right there. No, he shot my arm off. I've seen that one too. Man, this is crazy.
Oh, that was the one where the older man got the guy with the shotgun. I seen that one.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? It probably won't even let us watch it because we're not signed in yet. Con, put in the one where the guy up at the top, go to the search bar and put in kid shot and Ring doorbell. Let's look at that one. But yeah, I don't know, man. That's such a hard call.
But it's hard to make a call on either one of their stands because first thing, I don't know what kind of shape that man was in. I mean, I don't know how old he was. Don't know what kind of shape he was in.
Yeah.
Don't know what kind of shape his family or anything was in. But if I'm an older guy, 60, 70 years old, and some kid's kicking in my door and I'm feeble and I can't, as soon as he stepped through that door, I'd probably give him a mind adjustment.
Yeah, well, let me ask you this. And I know it's hard to kind of look at things, and
it's tough being an armchair quarterback.
It is, man. but let me ask you, like, whatever happened to warning shots?
Oh, the ammo's too expensive, they say.
But honestly, and not even from the kid's point of view, but now you have to live with that.
Oh, he has to live with that.
You're the man that just killed this kid.
That's right.
And to me, and this may be a selfish way of thinking about it, but I don't want that on my conscience unless it absolutely has to be.
Every law enforcement officer that leaves their house every morning has to make that decision.
I know.
Am I coming home?
Yeah. Turn the volume all the way down here.
Yeah, am I coming home? Am I going to be able to react and save my life or save somebody else's life?
Yeah. Oh, this looks like
this is when they were just getting home.
Okay.
I guess he was sitting in the driveway from what I understand when they were coming home.
Yeah, there he is. I mean, he definitely looks like he's he's obviously got something on his mind. And,
yeah.
And maybe that's just hurt and heartache. I don't know, but what's that?
That's the door jamb. When he kicked it open, he pulled the screws right out of the door jamb.
Yeah.
I mean, he was meaning to get in there.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, man.
His mental state was not right. You can tell by those eye blinks and stuff to me. I mean,
there's almost that look in their eye where it's like they're not there right now. Nobody's home. Now, did he shoot through? So he got through the big door, but did he shoot through the glass door? Is that what he shot through? Or I guess the way that I kind of understood it. Okay, yep, there it is. And that's the girlfriend, I guess. And that's the dad. Yeah, he looks pretty old. Oh, man. So that's tough for all of them, man.
Yeah.
Especially the dad and the daughter. They got to live with that now.
You can see the look on the dad's face.
Yeah, he looks pretty heartbroken.
But see, when he came through that door, he got the jamb broke open, and he warned the kid, "I've got a gun." Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah. Yeah, see, if you look right there, that glass door is open.
Yeah, the back, the like screen door, storm door. We call them a storm door.
Yeah. Yeah, and you always hear people, but I've always said this, like they blurred it out on this one, huh?
Yeah.
I've always said this, like, man, I would shoot to injure, you know.
It's hard. That's
and I know
in
you're
that split second, man. I mean, it's
shoot low.
you don't know.
Shoot low.
You don't know what's going to happen.
Shoot somebody's legs out.
Yeah,
from
you
under 'em.
shoot him in the leg and clip a femur, the artery in the femur.
Yeah, better chance than shooting chest or head, though.
So,
But yeah, I mean, especially if you're that scared. There's somebody that, that's just wild.
that's the front door. So I don't know if.
That's what I heard. He shot through the glass of the door, so the
Yeah.
door wasn't even all the way open. He shot through it.
Well, he got it open at some point because he had it ripped
Kicked
apart.
in. They did that after he was dead already.
Oh, great! Here we go.
No, yeah, it definitely looks like he kicked it in, pretty well got in, and he made the shots.
Yeah.
He probably shoved it back closed and then shot. Yeah, that's tough, man. Okay, Con, you can cut it.
Life is rough, and it's getting rougher.
Yeah, and it's these split second decisions, man, that change everything. And I don't know. We used to have this conversation a lot, though, a brother of mine and me. He's really liberal now, but he used to have a bunch of guns, and he would always talk about, he was one of those people that talked really badass, but would probably fold under pressure. And he used to always talk about what he would do if somebody broke in, and I'm always like, man, I don't know what I would do. Like that, those decisions that you make in that little amount of time are life-changing.
Well, we all like to talk big. We all like to talk tough. But when it actually comes down to that situation, we don't know how we're going to react until it's our turn.
Typically, I don't like to talk tough because then I feel like I got to live up to it.
Yeah.
So I usually talk down.
That's like my mind thought when I was a firefighter all the time.
Yeah.
I was coming home. I don't care what the situation was, I was coming home.
Yeah.
Still that way in law enforcement. I don't care what the situation is, I'm coming home. I when I was a firefighter, I had a wife and 2 kids I had to take care of, and there was nothing that was going to stop me from coming home.
Yeah.
I don't care how big the fire was. I don't care how big the chemical spill.
Yeah.
I had that determination because I wanted to live. So,
and not taking unnecessary risks.
Yeah.
Being smart, that goes a long way. Just knowing risk and knowing your limitations. But yeah, man, just to kind of touch on the whole home breaking thing, like what I was getting at, it's like he would talk, I would shoot and kill this person, do that, and I'm thinking, I always thought like the bigger picture, like I don't want to ruin my life because some guy broke into my house.
That's right.
And taking a life, it's a real burden on you, and I've seen it, man. My brother-in-law, his name's Mike. He was in Fallujah in 2003, and did a couple of tours over there. Ended up getting out and got hit with a grenade and got brought home. But it takes a toll on you taking a life.
Sure does.
Not to mention, most of these break-ins and stuff are usually like kids, younger kids.
Young kids, yeah.
And so you're taking like a young kid's life that just made a stupid decision one night.
Yep.
So, yeah, it would take a lot for me to shoot and kill somebody. I mean, I'd have to really feel like me or a family member was really in life danger.
That's right.
But yeah, and actually I've been in a position very similar to that one. It was before I owned any guns.
Yeah.
I was younger. Connor wasn't even born yet. And Brandy and I had just moved into an apartment. We were poor. And we lived in a bad side of town of Lubbock, Texas. And I was sitting there on my computer one night, and we lived on the very end of a balcony. So the only people that would have come up and to the end where our door is are people that are coming to our house because there was nothing else down the row. And I saw somebody go running by my window. I'm like, what the hell? Who's that? So, like, your very first thought is you're thinking logically, like, oh, my sister lived down the road. I'm like, what the hell's she doing here at 3 a.m? That's what I thought. Maybe it's them. And then, boom, it clicked to me. She wouldn't be here at 3 a.m. And I got up and I ran out of my room, and I used to always harp on Brandy to lock the door, but she grew up I grew up really poor. She grew up kind of middle class. They never locked their door or anything like that. We always did. There was just such a difference in the way that we grew up. But I went in and I ran in there and I saw the deadbolt was unlocked. And I was flying to lock that deadbolt. And right as I got close to it, the door came open.
Oh, boy.
And there's this guy standing there, probably about your size. And back then, man, when Brandy and I first got married, I was like, 160 pounds and just a scrawny kid. I was 18. And it was all I could do just to shove this guy out the door and then slam the door and flip the deadbolt. And then I ran back around, and my little apartment went back to the window to look out, and here come 3 cops. They were chasing him. He was looking for a place to hide.
Yeah.
And he'd probably tried every damn door on that top balcony, and he got to ours. It was unlocked, and he was coming in. Thank God I was awake.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I remember I was so mad at her for not locking that door.
I bet she paid better attention after that.
No.
Really?
No. Matter of fact, I went in there to tell her about it, and she just rolled over and went back to sleep.
Oh, my gosh.
She didn't even care.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, it was wild. And still to this, well, I think now finally, I mean, we're 14, 15 years into this thing now, and she's kind of got the door locking motion down. But the kids are probably still better at it than she is. So, but yeah, man, and that was before I owned any guns or anything. And
right.
Actually, we had 2.
But see, the gun wouldn't have done you no good because you didn't have it in your hand at the time.
Yeah. I mean, well, nowadays I got a gun behind every door nowadays.
Yeah, well, that's.
But yeah, I mean, it's got guns are one of those things where you gotta have them.
Well, for me, it's like the American Express card. I don't leave home without it.
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah. Oh, me too.
I just my daughter's the same way.
Yeah.
I mean, she don't leave home without it. Now my son. My son's a big guy. He's like 6'2", pretty good guy and pretty decent shape and all, but he just doesn't have the defense or the attitude to carry a gun. And I would hate for somebody to take it away from him and use it on him or somebody else.
Yeah.
So he's better off just to say, hey, look, man, just take what I got. Have a good day. And my daughter, on the other hand, she's like me. She's just mean, tough, and I wouldn't mess with her.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mess with her.
Yeah, I don't know, man. That's tough because, I like to think that my gun is more to help others, not myself. Like that's kind of the way that I see my gun. Like, if I was getting stuck up or something, like I'm probably not even gonna use my gun.
Yeah.
Like to me, that situation that you get in, those are the most terrifying and hardest defense situations. When you're face to face and somebody's sticking you up for some money, I'm not gonna try to pull my gun. I'm gonna let you have whatever.
If they've already got a gun pulled on you, you're gonna be hard pressed to pull yours and do something to stop them. But
I don't know, man. That's such a hard decision. I think that
decision.
I think I would just stay calm and give them whatever the hell they wanted. Now, to me, where my gun comes into play, like I fear going to the movie theaters.
Yeah.
We are in such a bad society now where you can't go to a movie theater without being scared of getting shot at. And it's not that it happens that often, but one time is enough. School shootings.
Mall shootings, school shootings.
Yeah, and that mall shooting, that one kid, man.
Yeah.
One kid that had a gun took care of the problem.
Yep.
And to me, that's why, and that's really why I've always carried a gun. I go into a Walmart and I start thinking, if somebody shoots this place up, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
But never once has it really ever crossed my mind. I don't know how I would handle that, but those are definitely the toughest. Like even when you train, and I train, like I'll train with my gun, train with pulling it, train, and those interactions. Usually, when you have those interactions, the most common ones are like face to face.
Right.
You're not even aiming your gun; you're just pulling it out, pulling the trigger.
Right.
And people that don't, there's a guy we watch on YouTube, and he says the best tool you can have, it's not the best gun you can have, it's not the best gear, the equipment, it's your knowledge and your training.
That's right.
And
knowledge and training and muscle memory, it builds muscle memory. That's what teaches you how to react. Because we all, I don't care whether it's fighting fire or pulling a gun as a cop, we all lose our senses. We lose our fine motor skills. Yeah. It's all gross motor skills. Yeah. And if you don't have that down.
Yeah, it has to feel like instinct.
Yep.
If it doesn't feel like instinct, you're as good as dead in a really hot situation.
It's tough.
Yeah. And that's tough to train for that because it's so hard to train for something that probably won't ever happen. I mean, obviously, in your line of work, you're more likely for stuff to happen. And even you guys, man, like, gosh, these cops that are getting shot on routine traffic stops and stuff, it's just insane. And it's hard to prepare for that.
as law enforcement, as in me myself, I don't want to think everybody's a criminal.
Exactly.
I stop you because your license plate is expired.
Yeah.
I'm not thinking you're a criminal. You're going to shoot me. You're John Q. Public to me. You might be my neighbor, and I just stopped you because your license plate is expired.
Yeah.
But then we walk up to the cars, and these guys shoot us, or somebody else shoots at us. Or
Yeah.
and then they wonder why we get jaded.
Well, I will say this. I'm going to go out and say exactly what I think on this, because there's a lot of cops that are just assholes. And
Every
there's
profession.
For sure. But the cops stand out because they feel like they're superior to the public. There's some cops that are like this. In our small town, they're not like that. They're the friendliest. They're just like everybody else, man.
Right.
But I've had my share of being pulled over by these cops that feel like they're like, it's almost like they're the judge, and they will judge you. They will talk down to you. They'll write you up for any little infraction that they might think you committed. Like I know I've been in a position a few times where it doesn't happen anymore, because now you can get all your insurance stuff on your phone.
On your phone.
But where I had insurance but didn't have the newest, most updated card in the glove box.
Yeah.
And they'll write you a thing, and then they're just like, well, you can go to court and take care of it. Well, do you realize what you're doing to somebody when you're having them take a whole day out of their work day or whatever they're doing to go to court and do that? But usually, the cops that give warnings and the cops that are really out to like help the public are the ones that, those are the ones that change your life too.
They will. They'll make a difference. You were talking about judging. When I went into law enforcement full time, when I went to work at the jail, I was just a slick sleeve. I was a deputy. I came to an understanding it was not my job to judge anybody. The judge, that's his job. To me, God, that's his job. It's not my job to judge. And we had everybody from petty crimes all the way up to murder. Okay. I didn't judge any of those people. It's not my job. If I was to do that, I'd probably drive myself crazy trying to work that job. So our thing is we're supposed to keep the public safe from those people safe from each other while they're in there.
Yeah.
And them safe from the public, and supply them what they need. So that's how I looked at my job. And it was tough to learn not to judge that. Somebody comes in and they've been, child molestation. They come in for child molestation. Okay. They've not been guilty yet. They're just inmates. They've not been convicted. And, you hear the stories, you read the reports, and it's hard not to judge that. But I don't want to be found guilty of judging somebody that's
right.
That's,
Not to mention, that's kind of a more stressful thing that you would carry on yourself, and more of a burden, just figuring out what you should think about those people.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, because that's probably kind of the mindset of these prosecutors that have to, they have to defend these guys.
Yeah.
Like, man, I always think about that. I'm always thinking, God, who in their right mind would defend this guy?
Right.
This guy that, and I do think that we are kind of in I think that we're just too deep in that stuff. We're too deep in, okay, if we can prove that he's legally insane, or we can prove that he's legally this, then he won't get the death penalty. These kids that go in and shoot up these kids in school, kill them. You know what I mean? Like,
my thing is product liability. You go out and you build a widget, okay, and that widget injures or kills somebody. Who's liable? You are, right? So why don't we make the lawyers liable for what they do too? Because they know a lot of these guys, they're getting paid buku bucks, and they know a lot of these guys are guilty.
Yeah.
But they figure out some way to get them off. And when they turn around and redo that crime, shouldn't they be their product liability?
That's what I kind of mean, though, man. We're just so deep in this whole law. We're deep in this field of is there a loophole?
Yeah.
And it's almost like we don't even care what's right or wrong anymore. It's what can we make stick.
In the late 1800s and early 1900s, if you were a 20-year-old cowboy and you seen your buddy go steal a horse and they hung him, would you think twice before you stole that horse?
Yeah.
I know I would.
Consequences were a lot higher.
Yeah, I'd be like, I'll walk.
And they're still that way in other countries, man. They'll chop your hands off for doing shit like that.
Yeah. So I mean, and I don't know. I don't agree with the court systems. They
Yeah.
put them in there. You get a 30-year sentence, and you have to serve 15 years of that. And oh well, okay, we'll let him out. We've got to get a better system down to. I know a lot of people say, well, we don't rehabilitate in jail. It makes it worse, which is true. I mean, in prisons all across this country, you can get the same drugs you get off the street.
Yeah.
But we've got to learn how to control this and change it around to make it work right. And it's going to be tough.
Well, in the olden days, they chained them all together and made them clean stuff up.
Yeah.
What happened to that?
Chain gang.
Yeah. Why? Like to me,
It's inhumane to them.
Yeah.
It degrades them.
Good.
Breaks them down. It's not, and it's hot out there,
Yeah.
We'll have our military boys go over to Afghanistan and dig a trench out there in, 140-degree weather.
And they get broken down in boot camp and
But-
everything else.
But it don't matter, But we don't want poor little Johnny that went to prison for murder and rape to have to get out and dig a ditch in the middle of the heat.
It's a weird road that we've gone down with that, man. It is. It's just
And that saved a lot of states money. Cutting the grass, cutting the weeds, all that stuff along the highway, digging out. That
Saved the taxpayers. Now,
a lot
instead of
money.
saving us money, they cost us more money to feed them and take care of them, and they don't do shit.
I think a better medical care.
Yeah, it's
than
wild.
You or I do.
It's wild, man.
It is wild. Everything's backwards.
Yeah.
To me, it's all backwards. Everything has went to the point where it's just went flying across the board, and then all of a sudden it just like a bungee cord and whipped it around. Now it's all backwards.
I've got a religious uncle, and he said, end of times, it says in the Bible that right will be wrong and wrong will be right.
Yeah.
And he feels all the time like we're getting to that point.
Yep.
And I
just heard somebody say that Sunday. I think that term come across Sunday, and I was like, wow.
Yeah.
Isn't that so true?
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird. So, let's fix this thing before it gets to that point. Life's pretty good.
Yeah.
And if people don't start realizing that, we got severe problems.
We're going to.
And gosh, man, I hope people just wake up. Wake up. Man.
Well, I'm proud to say I'm an American.
100%.
And I am so happy to be able to wake up every day in this country.
Yeah.
Am I ashamed of this country? Yes, I am. But that doesn't mean I won't defend it or I won't stand up for it. I mean,
if you think you're the first patriot American that's been ashamed of our country, you're dead wrong.
I'm dead wrong.
A lot of the greatness has probably been created out of shame in this country.
Yeah. A lot of our forefathers sure have rolled over in their graves.
All these people that, look, you think that when they fought why'd they fight against slavery? They were ashamed of it.
Yeah.
So there's nothing wrong with being ashamed of what's going on, but it's wild, man. Wild times.
Wild times.
Well, David, man, I appreciate you coming on here. It's been fun.
I've had a good time.
Yeah. We had a little technical difficulties starting out. We had some updates and some traffic, and Connor's my lead sound engineer back there behind the computer, and had to wait for him to get out of school, but we finally got it rolling.
That's awesome. I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, me too, man. Well, guys, please comment. Drop a comment below. Share this video with your friends, and we'll see you on the next one. Go ahead and cut us loose, Connor.